that have been doing this for so long that are so happy to share their insights with you as an actor that, I have that to draw from every day. Some of the disadvantages, I don't know that I've found any yet. Maybe it's too soon for me to start recognizing any disadvantages. Ask me this question next year. We'll see what my answer is. But I think, again, it's not really a disadvantage, but I think the weird part of it is just that it just still doesn't feel quite all that real to me. And I, sometimes you feel guilty. I think, my God, this isn't, I shouldn't be having this kind of luck. I've done nothing to deserve this kind of luck. I mean, people seem to like this, and I get cast, and things happen, and this is great, but how am I going to pay for all this one day? What's the karma going to be? So that's I don't know if that's a disadvantage. Maybe that's just me being paranoid, but yeah, it's still.
Well, it's still, no, but what sort of research do you do on your roles, or how do you prepare for them?
A lot of times I try to do two things across the board. This hasn't happened often. It depends on, the time I've got to work with, and how busy I am, but I try to, if the show's got a manga that's available in the States, I'll dip into a few issues of the manga to kind of get a feel for the overall tone of the show and how the character is written from that perspective. Something I'm really keen on doing because I'm such a big music buff is finding the soundtrack to the score to the show that I'm going to work on. I did that with Bakano, for example, and I did that with Ouran and with Aquarion because the music very much would get me in the mood, and so I would listen to the music every chance I got, in my car, en route to the studio, or just at home. I would kind of jam out to this stuff, and because I really want to, music is for me, music very much sets the tone for me as an actor. The music or even the lack of music in a particular scene can really guide your performance. So I music a lot, and then the manga, and if there's a chance to, and the character has, is an incarnation of say a character from another series that's already out, I'll often go and watch that if I can. So yeah, a little bit, and sometimes, I just kind of, some shows, it's better if you don't know anything about it, I find. It's great if you go in ignorant and you're just this blank slate and you get, a wonderful director like Tyler or Chris Bevins or Kaylin Glass or Mike McFarlane, who directed One Piece and who was awesome. I knew next to nothing about One Piece when I got cast as an L or Inaru or whatever we're calling him these days. But that was a big thing for me too, that I knew nothing about it, and Mike just had so much fun explaining everything to me that his energy was infectious, as was Caitlin's and Zach Bolton, who also worked on that show as ADR directors. And so sometimes just going in without doing any research at all, not doing my homework, I would just kind of show up and then just let the director's enthusiasm kind of inform the performance, and that's all.
Well, I think for
good way to go.
I think for like a show where you're playing, you just played he was a main villain, but you still played a villain who was in the Skypiea arc in One Piece. Sometimes I think, for stuff like that, it's probably best to go in unknowing of anything, because your character, especially Ined, he broke the mold for a lot of the villains because he had his cool lightning thing, and he was kind of different.
Yeah, he was a very fun part for me. I liked him, and I knew nothing about it. I knew that there had been another dub of it, but I had never heard it. Nor still.
They didn't actually make it that far. They only got to right after the desert.
So okay.
That was like 50 or 60 episodes before you came into the show.
Okay. See, that was a weird process too, because the auditions were far more strenuous for that than anything.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
my auditions.
It's actually because Eiichiro Oda picks the voice actors for that show because he was extremely displeased with the 4Kids version of it.
Oof.
And I don't know Odex. I don't even think they got that far. That's the Singapore English dub. But
yeah, no, I haven't heard any of that stuff. But I have heard what we've done at Funimation, and I'm a fan. That sounds terribly self-aggrandizing, but no, I love what Funimation's done with One Piece. I know, again, nothing about that show before I got cast, I became a big fan for it, and I love that show now. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
It gets way better.
Oh, yes. Believe me, I know. More.
So, do you read any of the reviews or any of the message board that discuss the voice dubs?
Sometimes I do. Sometimes I do. Sometimes it's painful, or at least the idea, like, oh, people are gonna hate this. You know, I always kind of go into it expecting the worst. And
I heard that Tatum guy.
What?
That Tatum guy.
Oh God, that Tatum guy. You know, it's funny. That is actually one of the biggest challenges I've learned about being a voice actor in this particular industry in anime, because, you know, 9 times out of 10 you're playing a character that the audience already has an established relationship with. You know, often a very profound one, and you know, if you don't mind your P's and Q's, if you don't come into it at least sensitive to that fact, you know, you're looked at as a homewrecker. You know, I mean, if you want to, you know, if you have your own idea of what the character ought to sound like when you come into it, you know, I mean, you can't please everybody, obviously, but you have to learn to love that character as much as the fans love that character, because if they otherwise the performance isn't going to sound honest, and the fans are extremely shrewd, and they know, you know, if this person doesn't know what they're doing, this person doesn't understand, this person doesn't get this character, they know, they can tell from a mile away, they can smell fear, and they will devour you. Which is very challenging to have to deal with, but on the other side, the flip side of that is when the fans are really pleased with something you've done. Like, I can't believe the feedback I got playing Kyoya. I was terrified. When I got announced, you know, when the cast was announced, I think in July of 2007 at Anime Expo, no one knew who I was, nor should they have. You know, no one was like, who is this guy? You know, he's got glasses. Okay, maybe he'll sound good. And there was all this, you know, stuff on the message board. I did follow that because I was very curious. And people were like, who is this guy? I don't know. They should have gotten this person to play this. This person should have played it. If anybody but this, who is this guy? This guy's nobody, you know. And I thought, oh, man, they're going to hate it. They're going to have to hate it. Farmer. And then, and then, you know, when it came out, I got so much love. I mean, everybody that I talked to, or everybody that I talked to, just couldn't stop talking. And it was just so much more. I love telling this story. This happened in Anime Fest 2 last year when we premiered like the first 4 or 5 episodes of Ouran. I hadn't even seen them completed yet, so I was a nervous wreck. I thought, oh my God, how do I sound? I don't know. And we finished recording that months ago. I don't even remember what I sounded like. Oh God, they're going to hate it, you know, because here's this. I think they were going to premiere it in one of the smaller viewing rooms, but more and more people kept showing up, and so the fire marshal like moved them to this huge ballroom, you know, the central room where they do the cosplay contest and the penguin and everything. And so it was this huge, I mean, no pressure or anything. And you know, Mike McFarlane and Greg Ayers and I were all there, you know, to kind of banter in between episodes with the audience. And here, you know, they showed an episode, and then we got up and talked, and they showed another episode, and then we talked, and we took questions. And there was this one guy in this really awesome samurai outfit. I'm not sure what character he was playing, but it was an awesome cosplay. And he kind of stood up and you know, had his hand up, and we picked on him, you know, and said, you know, yes, you in the audience there. And he kind of looked, and he looked right at me or through me or whatever. I couldn't tell from the distance, but it was like he just had this look on his face, and he's like, this isn't a question. This is more of a comment for Mr. Tatum. And, you know, again,
well, that's not
Mr.
good.
Tatum makes me feel like, oh, God, what have I done? I'll go to the principal's office now. Yes, ma'am. You know, and I'm just, my heart sank, you know, and he kind of pointed to me and said, I have a comment for Mr. Tatum, and he said something to the effect of, you know, I have to admit, I was one of the doubters, or, you know, I was skeptical, he said, when you were first announced as playing Kyoya, because I wasn't familiar with your stuff. But having seen these episodes, he said, and he just sort of turned and bowed to me.
Oh, whoa.
And I could have cried. Are you kidding me? I could have been like, oh, thank God.
It's all of my samurai honor.
But that turned out to be like the best experience of the con for me. It was like, they love it. They love it. They love Kyoya, thank God. Because I loved Kyoya, and I had a lot of fun playing him. And it's always heartbreaking when, you know, you put something into a character and then someone kind of looks at it and goes, nah, I didn't like that very much, you know. Which happens. I mean, everyone has their own taste.